Hey everyone, Cherise here. Welcome back, or welcome if it's your first video in this channel. Today it's time for my May Plan With Me video, a new monthly bullet journal setup, so grab your notebooks and get ready to create planning spreads with me. As usual, we are doing a theme-based monthly setup, which is a fun incorporation in my bullet journal. I like doing spring vibes until May, but this time I wanted to go back to doing a vintage aesthetic, and I decided to go for a vintage kitchen theme for this month. So let's dive right into making our cover page, and I'm going to use watercolor paints again. But for this page, I decided to paint on this separate 180 GSM vellum board that suits my preference, which has uncoated surface, allowing me to use wet on dry painting technique. You can certainly use a watercolor paper, which is much more suitable for this purpose, or use your choice of coloring supplies if you would like to recreate the illustrations and layouts. So I pre-cut the vellum board that matches the size and round corners of the page. We are going to temporarily secure it here using washi tapes or any masking tape that has gentle adhesives so that we can easily peel them off later without damaging the paper. I will be using my watercolor set from Royal Talons, a number 6 round brush, and a small detail brush for the whole painting process. You will find the supplies and links I'm using in this setup on the video description below, and if ever I forget including something, just let me know in the comments and I'll try my best to update it for you. I'm taking some initial colors I want to use in this cover page painting. I have burnt sienna, sepia, burnt umber, olive green, and a mix of white and sepia to create a warm gray. Then we start painting the upper part of our page with several vintage kettles and cooking pots with some potted indoor plants. There are so many elements you can put here, but I am just including the items I like. This is the space with floating shelves, but we are painting these little utensils first, and I like to complete the painting for each element already before moving on to the next one, so I don't need to come back again unless I forget something. But painting the base layers and then the details later on are also fine because I do that as well many times. So this still takes some time to paint. I actually thought it would be quicker when I envisioned it, but it's okay. It's therapeutic anyway, which is what I like about painting my illustrations. There's no rule to what items you want to include here, as well as the placements of each, but I like to alternate the colors so it looks balanced as a whole. You might be asking, why don't I just paint on the page directly? I explained this on my previous Plan With Me videos using this Archer and Olive notebook, but in case you missed it, I was having a hard time painting with watercolors in these new pages of their dot grid notebooks, which has a coating. They are not how they were before, uncoated and easily absorbs the paint, which I was used to since I have tried one of their notebooks before. It's kind of my fault too that I didn't do a paint test on this because I guess it is the fact that it's not my first time using their notebooks, plus I got too excited to use it because of the cover design. So I was thinking of using brush pens for this. I wanted to use a different brand of brush pens apart from the Ohuhu that I tried before. However, I got more frustrated with it. But yeah, I really hope they get back to their old paper. So I will be using a different brand for my next bullet journal. And some of you have good recommendations. I really appreciate that. Now I have some prospects and I can't wait to try them. Anyway, we are done with the utensils above. We are painting two long shelves using burnt umber. We start with a light consistency and then add another line below with more pigment on our brush so it becomes darker. We are also painting the handles on both ends using the same color and consistencies. Just below the second shelf is a space for some more essential kitchen tools that are hanged on hooks like ladles, whisk, peeler, smaller pans, kitchen towel, and sometimes in rural kitchens you can find a string of garlic and onions. Okay, now let's focus on the lower part of this painting. We are adding some more tools like bigger pots, saute pans, ceramic jars, and bottles for cooking oil and other sauces. I painted a tiny plant in between, which is not really showing up nicely. Beneath these tools is a combination of countertop and cooktop. I mean, it should be, so please don't find the cooktop because I failed to add the stove. But I'm adding some drawer, open shelves, and base cabinet using the same brown color, and an oven using warm gray. We gotta paint a pan and heat inside too so it looks more interesting, and a couple large pots on the open shelves with dark background for the shadows. I'm not sure about other cultures, but in the Philippines we have a dirty kitchen. You might imagine a disorganized, messy space with unwashed dishes and leftover food when you hear the phrase dirty kitchen, but it's far from what the name suggests. In Filipino households, it is an auxiliary cooking area that stands apart from the home's primary or clean kitchen. It is often located outside the home, serving as a functional hub for everyday culinary tasks and preparations. The dirty kitchen is a reflection of both cultural and environmental factors unique to our country. Given our country's tropical climate, the notion of cooking outdoors is both practical and comfortable. It helps keep heat and odors away from the house, helping maintain a cleaner, cooler, and more welcoming space. Filipino families also often have large gatherings, and food is a crucial part of these occasions, so a separate dirty kitchen lets the primary kitchen stay clean and presentable when hosting guests. I also wanted to decorate the floor a bit by placing two pots of red flowers with a basket and a ceramic jar, then the floor itself with a brick pattern design. When we are done with the painting, we can now write the monthly title on the very top using a black pen. I'm using a cursive font with thin strokes to match the little elements of the illustration. And we can now remove the washi tapes and attach the painting on the page with double-sided tapes. Alright, that is pretty much it for this cover. I really like the whole composition and I hope you enjoyed it too. But let's flip onto the next spread to create our monthly calendar. My goal in making this setup and the next one within this notebook is to limit adding extra papers because, like I said in my previous Plan With Me video, I need to give the spine a break because it's nearly going to explode due to my interactive pieces where I usually need separate papers and glue them in. Though the idea is always fun for me, I won't be doing any interactive trackers this time. But I've also mentioned the reason I had to paint on a separate vellum board paper earlier, and I'm really satisfied with how the painting looked on the cover and how it was easy for me to paint. But honestly, as a YouTube creator, I just have the idea that the cover page, which is usually shown in the thumbnail, is crucial, so being able to enjoy painting and being satisfied with the result is a factor for me. And I'm sure my fellow creators can relate to that as well. So in this calendar, it's gonna be a full spread painting. And because of the layout I'm going for, I didn't want to add separate papers because it's gonna look weird on the middle, so I just told myself to paint away and get through it. The layout is inspired by a close-up of the kitchen area. We have a hood above that is the first thing we painted using a brown color, as well as the countertop and cupboard. I added the details of the hood for now and moved on to the calendar, which is a traditional backsplash using ceramic tiles. Instead of keeping it white, I decided to paint them with a very light wash of warm colors. They're basically diluted paints that I have on my palette. So we are painting these squares that are 4x4 dot spaces, and we have 7 columns of them all the way to the edge of the countertop. But just below the hood, the height of the boxes are only 2 spaces. Next, we are painting the grout, which is the substance that we commonly see in between the tiles, with a light brown paint using our small detail brush. I actually painted an extra column on the left side, but with a few tiles only just to fill that space. But after that, we continue painting some more decorative elements on the countertop, such as vases with a bunch of flowers, ladles, bowls of fruits, kettle, and jars. I realized I painted the same flowers in 2 of my previous monthly setups, so I hope you haven't had enough seeing them. I'm just really putting different items to fill the space and kind of duplicating some of it on the other side to balance the composition. So I will be fast forwarding that to the next step. Over the right hand side will be the cupboard. We're painting 4 layers, but the top layer is quite cropped in this image because I wanted the middle layers to have a bit more space for writing. So we're painting the whole thing with brown and add the dark shadows accordingly to create a dimensional effect. After that, we can paint the foreground elements such as some hand towels hanged on the bottom layer and some more utensils on the top layer. You can do this first before the background, but either way can be done. I don't know, but I really forgot to include illustrations of cutting boards and knives, but it's okay. It's kind of creepy to add though, now that I thought about it. But it's all up to you too. You can add any kitchen related items like I said before. Let's simply write the days and dates on our calendar using our black pen, and don't worry about the extra tiles below. But now that we're done with the whole spread painting, I want to add a little interactive aspect here without adding separate sheets of paper by scoring the vertical line between the backsplash and the cupboard using a pen with a dried nib. You can also use a bone folder if you have, but any tool with a slightly sharp edge can do the job. Then we will just fold this area inwards and glue the middle back side of this painted page onto the page next to it. So we have these empty spaces that I'm going to use for some planning purposes. The folded area will be for my goals section and focus on the right side. I intend this to be a weekly basis. I'm gonna have 4 spaces for each section, and we're doing the layout really simple, just using a brown zebra mite liner highlighter and a black pen to create balance with our heavily painted calendar spread. I didn't write any title on the empty cupboard spaces yet. I still don't know whether to use it for some important dates or deadlines or for a master to-do list, to be honest. It can be a mix of those, but leaving it as is looks fine for me. But that's it for this monthly calendar, goals, and focus spreads. We can now move on again to creating my next pages in this setup. The page starts with an illustration on the top part. It's another still life painting of kitchen utensils. I know it can be boring to watch redundant subjects, but if you're busy and a visual person at the same time, repeating designs will make your setup easier to make. So we are painting an arrangement of ladles, wooden plate, deep pans, and a bowl of fruits with a light wash of warm background. This is going to be my habit trackers page. As mentioned before, I won't be making an interactive one this time until I fill up this notebook. It's just heartwarming that you enjoy the creative ideas and you guys attempting to make them. I really enjoy them too. And if I were to make one for this setup, I think I will do something like a recipe book, which is I'll also be painting on the next page actually. But yeah, there are some possible ideas in my head, but I guess I'll just save them for now and maybe execute them in my future setups or related themes. I have some of you asking, how do I have time to make all these interactive spreads or the whole setup itself? I think I also consider that I'm filming these plan with me setups, and as much as possible, I don't want to spend a long time with that, so I also plan how can I be efficient by planning the sequence of the steps and knowing what parts are repetitive so I can do them now off camera, especially if the design is painted, so I don't have to wait for a while for them to dry. That way, I already have them ready, the same things I take into consideration in my other setups. I always look for repetition, so I don't need to film them because filming itself adds to the time too. I hope that makes sense. Anyway, when we are done with the painting, we can now create the mini calendar trackers. I decided to make these check pattern design using different colors of highlighters. I was confused at first and I even made a little mistake, but it's okay. Then we are writing the titles and days of the week with a black pen. It's been a while, but it feels like a breath of fresh air to try a different layout that is not interactive, and I hope you still enjoy this one. I was contemplating where to write the habit tracker title at this point. I didn't thought about it when I was conceptualizing, so I was thinking if I should keep it this way without a title. So I moved on to the next step for now, that is painting another illustration on the other side of the spread to the bottom half. I am able to add different elements this time, which are some vegetables or the ingredients to a healthy dish with a recipe book. We start with the surrounding items. We have some tomatoes, carrots, a bottle of olive oil, a jar of condiment, celery, garlic, and onion. Then we have the open recipe book on the middle. And likewise, we begin our painting with the base layer and gradually add the shadows and details. I'm not really a good cook. My husband does better than me, but I'm happy to have a theme like this once in a while, as it reminds me of the industry I came from before I became a full-time artist, which is hotel and restaurant or hospitality. Anyway, after that, we are also adding the shadows around the white spaces and the light washes of brown color to match the painting on the top. The spaces above will be for my devotional plan or Bible plan title. As always, I take my devotions from the YouVersion app or Bible app. I chose a newly added plan but also timely to my life right now, which is incredible. It is one of the first topics that showed up while I was looking into the list. The title is Redeeming Your Time with 7 Biblical Principles for Being Purposeful, Present, and Wildly Productive. Life lately has been so hectic that I was not able to do things on the time it has to be done. While I am grateful for all the projects coming my way, I just felt like I am so behind everything I needed to do, and I just wanted to have more slower days again. So this plan is definitely for me. If you feel the same and want to take the plan for yourself, I will be including the link on the video description as well. The next thing we're adding here are some decorative papers. These are from Paper Monogatari, and we're just gluing a vertical portion covering the edges of both spreads. The green one with writings will be on the left, and the check pattern will be on the right. I also wanted to create 7 tabs on 7 pages using different washi tapes. It's been a while too since I included some tabs in my setups, so it's nice to have them back to add a little bit of fun to the 7 days of devotional spreads. In terms of the daily layout, I will be using a whole spread where I can write each principle according to the plan I selected. Then I'm using the SOAP method or the scripture, observation, application, and prayer. Alright, on to the next one are my weekly spreads for May. So I already cut 4 pages into vertical Dutch doors to save us some time. I also attached vellum boards on both sides of the spreads where we will be painting our weekly illustrations. We will be doing a similar painting idea of floating shelves, but we are putting jars of pickles and citrus fruits more than the utensils to make it different and give more color than the previous ones. The size of the images are also quite bigger to fit the whole vellum board. This is like a pantry, and this might look summery already in terms of the colors I'm using. May in the Philippines already feels like summer. It is always a time for people to go on a vacation to the beach. I am the least excited about this season because the temperature just gets so high and wild that it can be uncomfortable and unbearable to go out during the day or even staying at home. It can get as high as 40 degrees Celsius. It feels hot even at night. I usually work upstairs and it has started to feel suffocating. Power outages also happen often and for longer periods of time in our area, just like last Saturday for the whole day from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and on Sunday afternoon again. That's why the work sometimes can get even more delayed. It is just April right now, so how much more in the coming months? But yeah, I'm sorry for telling something else rather than explaining what I'm doing. I honestly just run out of things to say when I'm doing similar steps. So yeah, thank you for listening anyway. So we painted different kitchen elements here before the shelves, which we are also painting using brown. And it's just the same design like we did in the cover page. Then some warm gray shadows under each shelf to complete this side. We are also having 3 shelves on the opposite side, but we're just kind of changing the placements or vary the items. I'm going to cut the process short this time, but I think you get the idea already. Next, we are writing the week's title on the top of the left side illustration using the same cursive font and the daily spaces for my tasks using colorful highlighters. Again, super simple layouts with just some round shapes for the dates and thick lines for the days. I'm combining the weekends here so we still have some spaces under where I'm writing the verse of the week. I chose the Psalm 34:8 saying, "Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the man who takes refuge in him." Then a little note section on the other side, but you can also separate the weekends and use this space for your Sunday tasks and events. On to the final spread we're making in this video is my monthly review spread. If you like to create a recap of how your month went, this is a great spread to add in your setup. So the first thing is our review title on the left side. Then I cut out some boxes of these check pattern paper from Paper Monogatari. I'm bringing back a boxed layout. I'm doing the rest by just painting a block of color using the ones we used in the entire setup and draw the outlines using a black pen. I also like to vary the sizes for this to make it look interesting. On each box, I'm writing my usual prompts like what am I grateful for, my small wins, what I learned, challenges I faced and overcame, things I need to improve, and my favorites such as food, scent, passage in the scripture, shows, song, and place. Now let's focus on one last painting to add a bit more color to our spread. I decided to paint jars of herbs and spices. We do them in different sizes and heights. Likewise, we just start with the flat layers of color and then the darker shades for the next layer to add shadows and details. It's pretty quick for the jars to paint, and I didn't bother to add labels, but you can certainly do if you want. We are also painting some dried bay leaves, peppercorns, cinnamon sticks, and other seeds on the foreground. Sometimes when I get to the end of the setup, I just wanted to be done already, so I didn't try to make them detailed. But lastly, we're just adding these leaves around and some around the title to complete this whole spread. Alright, that's finally everything for this vintage kitchen inspired theme for my May 2024 bullet journal setup. I hope you enjoyed watching this plan with me video and inspired you as well for your own May spread layouts or for your future monthly setups. Remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more bullet journaling content from me. Thank you so much for watching. Have a blessed month of May. Take care and stay hydrated. And I'll talk to you soon in my next video. Bye everyone.